Welcome to Behind the Barcode, the podcast that goes beyond the label to uncover the stories of the faces behind your favorite products. We're your hosts, Anna and Sydney.
In this podcast, we dive into the dynamic world of consumer packaged goods with a focus on better-for-you products. As entrepreneurs ourselves, we know firsthand the challenges and triumphs of bringing a product to market. That's why we're here to share the journeys of fellow innovators, industry experts, and entrepreneurs who are making waves in the CPG space.
Join us as we sit down with inspiring guests to explore the stories behind the UPC codes, uncovering the passion, perseverance, and purpose driving their businesses forward. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur, a budding startup, or simply curious about the stories behind the products you love, this podcast is for you.
So grab your favorite snack and get ready to go behind the barcode.
Welcome, Steve, Behind the Barcode. We're so excited to have you today. Steve is the founder and CEO of Papa Steve's, a legendary protein bar company in LA and around the world. We're so excited to have you. I mean, I remember meeting you at Whole Foods about a year ago.
Stocking the shelves.
Yeah, I saw you stocking the shelves and I was like,
you
that
work
doesn't
here?
look like a Whole Foods employee. He looks like the owner of Papa Steve's.
Yeah, doing my own stocking because they won't do it.
Yeah.
Doing someone else's job. That's my other title.
But I also saw like the passion and everything that you were like putting into it. And I was like, I think he's the owner. So
Yeah, right? Like when you see the owner like doing the work.
yes.
It's not going to get done, then you know it's the owner.
Every time Sydney and I are at the store and we see our products, we always fix them. Every time I see Sydney's products like all, jumbled around, I always fix it.
Yeah.
For her.
Thank you.
And I noticed
that.
the way you were doing it. I was like, all right.
It's very important.
Like making it actually look like presentable.
Yes.
Just throwing it in there.
So first, before I forget to say this, my brother's your biggest fan.
Oh, great.
Okay. He buys so many Papa Steve's bars a week.
Oh, wow.
Okay. His favorite is the banana chocolate chip.
Nice.
And he's
I brought
obsessed.
that.
Oh my God. He's obsessed. And you have a cult following, which I think is the greatest thing that any CPG brand can have. We've talked about that and having a loyal customer base, so much so that one of our friends, I don't know if you saw this, I don't know if you're running the Instagram.
No, I have somebody
else.
that runs it.
Okay. Our friend posted a story, an Instagram story at Whole Foods with all your products sold out.
Oh,
and said,
right.
Papa Steve's, please restock.
Yeah,
when are
right.
you? Like the fact that someone put that on their Instagram story publicly to like contact you and reach out to you and say at Papa Steve's, please restock at Whole Foods. That's huge.
Do your job.
Well, no.
That's their statement.
No. But the thing is, first of all, the world has changed.
Because they're not ordering. That's the problem. They
Whole
don't order.
Foods.
Yeah, they
Well,
can't.
but
some
brand
of them just
customers
do the
don't
job.
know that, and that's part of
Oh,
what we're bringing to the on the podcast.
Yeah, right.
Is that it's crazy how the world has shifted. We had an account in New York as well, where someone kept reaching out to us, tagging French Squirrel. French Squirrel, when are you going to be stocked on the shelf? Why do you not have products on the shelf? And I said, oh, it's actually the store that isn't like ordering. We're going to have to contact the store. The store kept getting angry, saying, why are they contacting you, French Squirrel, and not us? And I said, I guess the world has changed where they want to communicate with the brand and not the store.
Right. Yeah.
Well, also, people don't know that it's the store ordering. They may think that we are the ones. I don't know.
Yes, they do.
just
They don't know. No, they have no idea. They just
Yeah.
figure it's the brand's fault for not stocking it because they don't know how the mechanics of it. They don't know that there's somebody that's got to order it. They may assume it, but or the store, they may think they kind of have a vague understanding of how it works. Like I never figured it out when I went to the store. I was like, it's not here. And I just get mad. Right? You don't even think about it. You're just like, it's not here. It's not out. What? Where now what?
Sometimes it's in the back of the store, by the way,
sometimes
for
it's
everyone
been moved.
listening.
Yeah, it's gone. It's been moved because they just did resets at Whole Foods. So you walk in and you're like, oh, I had 4 shelves. Now I have half of one. So what happened here? Then you go to the back and you hear the receivers. And so what happened here? Oh, they got this third-party crappy company. We hate them. They're horrible. They take forever to stock. By the time the store's open, they're still doing it. They're sloth. And you're like, so who hired them? They're like, oh, we didn't. It's not ours. We didn't have anything to do with it. Amazon just brings them in. And you're like, okay. So you have these people in India now processing your invoices, right? Because that's what they farmed it out to. So you'll just see these weird names that you don't know who it's from, but you know they're from India because you can figure that out. You can parse it out and go, when you call them, you know you're calling India.
And were you a part of, I want to get into the conceptualization of Papa Steve's too, but while you're on the topic of Whole Foods, were you guys in Whole Foods during this transition to the Amazon acquisition? And what was that like, and how has that changed your relationship with Whole Foods, and how did you get into Whole Foods, the whole thing?
Yeah. You want me to first start with getting into Whole Foods or the transition?
Sure.
Was it 2007? Wait, when was it?
2012.
2012.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was because I was down the street from Gold's Gym, because that's where I started. And that's where it got conceptualized at Gold's Gym in the exercise class.
Gold's Gym.
Yeah.
Did you just start bringing them in to the gym? No way.
Your bars.
Went a little further, because there was a bar that this old man was making, and I was running and I was eating. I would buy boxes of them. You know, so I was like this cult follower of this guy's, because I didn't have it anywhere else. So he had this oat bar thing that the calories are like low, and it was like, wow, this tastes like really good and whatever. And I was buying that all the time. And then it wasn't there. And I was getting a box of them and sticking it in the freezer. That's how hooked I was. And it's not here anymore. I was like, why? What's going on? I need this. This is part of my life.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds stupid, but
no, it doesn't.
I mean, I had made it part of my routine. So I was like, hey, you disrupted my routine here. What are you doing here? Why didn't you alert anybody? This is upset I was about it. And this lady at the pro shop, she's like, well, and I was like, oh my God, well, is it anywhere else? You know, this is how dumb me explaining, that's how dumb I probably sounded saying this. Like, she's probably looking at me going, dude, just get another thing. What's wrong with you? It's not that big of a deal. I was like, no. Where? She's like, well, it's not really anywhere else. And I was like, okay, can you let me know when it's coming back in? Weeks passed. I'm like, it's not coming in, huh? She's like, he doesn't want to get the product insurance because he was making it out of his house. I was like, what? I was like, what's product insurance? I was like, what is that? And she's like, oh, whatever. Not long story short, I was like, how about if I reverse engineer it and I'll make it? If I made it, would you bring it in? Like, would you sell it? We'll just charge X and this little handshake deal. And I went back and I took my mom's old oatmeal recipe, hacked it, and then took his thing that I had left over and just reverse engineered it and then brought it back to her. And I was like, is that closed? It tastes closed. She's like, yeah. I was like, do you want to sell it? Like, how about we sell it? She's like, yeah, we could try it. Yeah, or whatever. She was like open to it. And then I was like, I saw the work that went into it, like baking it. And I was like, no, this is going to kill me. Like, I'm rolling it out on sheets and cutting it with the pizza cutter. And then I was wrapping it by hand with the parchment paper or something. And I was like, this will take forever. So I said, I'll just start all over again. I'd start from scratch. I'm just going to make my own. And then I kept bringing it into exercise class, and they'd spit it out, and it was disgusting. And over 3 months went in. They were like, finally, they're like, yeah, I'd pay for this. And I was like, how much would you pay for it? Like, oh, so long story short, they kept pushing on her. I got all the exercise people to start pressuring her. And they did it for me. They're like, how come you're not bringing this in? This is really good. Because I was taking all their exercise classes. So I knew them all. And they pushed her, and finally, like, she brought it in. And then it started selling. I was like watching, I was working out, people would take it out and buy it.
Was this branded as Papa Steve's at this point?
Yeah.
Or these were just...
Yeah, this was when I wrapped it in. I took the butcher paper from Vaughn's. I would take it because I couldn't find it. I'd say, can I have the square cut butcher paper? And I'd cut it into squares, or I would take it, and when it was in squares, and I would just, they didn't know what I wanted it for. Like, what do you want I just makes wrap sandwiches.
Anna and I just have a special childhood memories of Vaughn's.
Yeah, Vaughn. Well, whoever had it, I'd go to Vaughn's, Ralph's, whatever, at the meat department, because it had
that paper.
The paper,
yes,
with
that brown paper,
with the wax filler.
Wow,
which is I love that experience.
Yeah, and it's very tactile, and it's very like this is like what people are trusting their meat in. So I'm like, okay, well, this has got to be able to hold a protein bar. That's because it was greasy. It had, the oils.
What was that process like of you? You were just iterating
samples
and just kept giving them to people and saying, what do you think?
Yep. I just tested. I did the lean startup thing, which is like this whole iteration scientific method.
What were you doing before?
I was consulting. I was fixing businesses and turning them around. So the guy upset me. He had a food business, and I was consulting on another part of his business, and he had an ego. I can't stand people with egos. They drive me nuts. And he just would not listen. I was like, I'm going to start a food company in 6 months. I'm going to show you that I can do what you've done, and you're $1 million in debt. Because he upset me so much. And the opportunity was already there, and I was already helping them. And the president I was helping, she was fighting with him all the time. And the guy just drove me nuts because the ego was just so like, Right. And I was like, okay, I'm going to show you. But I think that whole process just pushes you because somebody upsets you. And that's what I was doing before, was branding and product and user experience. I was doing user experiences. I'm making software and stuff and other stuff. I just translated it to food. Which
the food business is a really tough business.
Oh,
and
God,
for everyone listening, we've talked about this on the podcast multiple times. It's a very thin margin business. And so when you go into it, like, had I known that, I don't know, I think Anna and I have talked about, we're almost 4 years in business, both of our businesses. How many years now have you been in business?
13.
Okay. Wow. 13. So then when we are asked what we would have known, for us, we were talking about this yesterday, Anna and I, it's like getting the pricing down before anything and making sure that it's profitable and it's positive cash flow. But what have you learned in 13 years of business now since that? Which is, I mean, it's so inspiring. I feel like you're like a celebrity to us.
On pricing, it's like, I would say I went into it kind of knowing a range of where I needed to be in, like what the market was. I knew what the market environment was. And that was my starting place. Because I would stay in the protein bar aisles. They thought I was probably weird. I would stand there for hours.
Me too.
Scanning and looking at it. And I was like, I would take the wrappers home and study it and look at the ingredient. I'd watch the customers picking it out. And I'd watch their, what are they looking at? Why do they put it back? Right. Like what you picked it up and you looked at it. There was something about that you didn't like that you put it back. So I had a set of the market pricing going in, knowing when I looked at Perfect Food Bar, I was like, okay, he's at that, but I can't do it for that because that guy's got scale. I've got to be higher, but what's the highest I can go to be the barrier where they start to just go, I'm not interested. And that's where I started to know where my set point was. What will they go for? That's where I started with on pricing.
That's a really great tip, to like work backwards and to have, if you're starting a brand, to say what's the highest someone will pay, knowing that you can't produce that scale in the beginning.
Yeah, there's a threshold because everyone walks in, they're like, okay, they go through the aisle, they look at all the stuff, and they've been shopping for a while, right? So they know the prices. They have an idea. They're like, okay, so the top is this, the bottom is that. So whatever they're looking for, they're like, the market has already decided and said, this is the most are going to go for. So anything more than that, you're probably going to see it not there. But if you've seen it there for a while and you've seen that they're going for that price and it's moving, that's the other key is that moving at that price, then you can like kind of push in to know what you have to work with. So I knew what I had to work with starting off and work backwards. But I've seen other people come in and they try to go even higher, and I'm like, they're not going for that, man. I don't know. But what's funny is all those seals that they put on there and whatever. The funniest though is I played with all those things to see if the thing would work or whatever. I ran all these tests or whatever.
The QR code?
All those seal
the
of organic and the
non-GMO.
not, whatever.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The whole thing with the certifications of
Yes.
like this justifies you charging a higher price kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was like most people, it didn't move the needle at all. You'd put it, you'd like, I'll get the thing and see if anyone
Right.
cares.
I mean, I'm
Could care
so
less.
picky about ingredients, and to me that doesn't matter. I just look to see if certain ingredients are organic, or just to even
Yeah.
look at what's in the product.
Yeah.
I feel like that matters more, and like the transparency of
Because
it.
we know now, being small businesses too, that sometimes we don't have the seal because of the price.
The
Yeah.
price of it.
Not
is
because
No, the
it's not
regulation
expensive.
requirements they put you through.
Right.
Yeah.
Just, it's a game.
It
these,
is.
These seals are a game of marketing. It's like the customer looks at those dumb seals. They're just like, okay.
Right.
You could put a picture of an elephant on there and write whatever thing on it, and they go, oh, okay. Because they don't do the research and to know all these different seals, like 50 different organic seals. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, it says organic. Good. It's good enough.
Right.
Like, I'm
But
fine.
I went to,
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I went to the USDA cafeteria. It was in Washington, I believe. And I ate there, and
Yeah.
and the food, like a lot of it was filled with different oils that
Yeah, right.
you know are highly inflammatory. So it wasn't like it was a healthy
Yeah, right.
cafeteria. Like just because it has a USDA organic sticker doesn't really mean any. I mean, sure, it's great that the products are organic, but it doesn't mean it's glyphosate free, and it doesn't mean it's seed oil free, and it doesn't mean that it doesn't have some of these other things that are more inflammatory.
And the part that I'm not like outing anybody, but most people don't know this because this is like the economics of farming,
Yeah.
is the farmers who do organic are still spraying and it's not organic. So the levels of what the farm is required to have for how their farming techniques, because of the economics of it, it's difficult to do organic for them. They give them a certain amount of time for their crops because they may have had a bad crop. So they may not have been able to be organic for that particular period of time when they harvested. But they get to keep their organic seal, and you're still getting those non-organic products.
That's so interesting.
But they're not going to say that.
So many loopholes.
There's a lot of,
So many
well, because it's very expensive to do organic farming. All of the
Extremely.
things that you use, the techniques you use, all of those things are very expensive. So it's like they have to give them some leeway to say, hey, I know you want to run the organic farm, but you'll be out of business because we can't control the soil. We can't control the conditions of the environment. It's not like it's in a greenhouse. No. You're trying to organic farm. You're like, okay, you can't make the temperature organic. It's like, I can't control the topsoil and the frost.
It's so unbelievable. I know. Yeah, there's so many loopholes, and to have more people talking about the food business is important. So I think we're all starting the conversation of transparency of like what we're actually eating, you know?
Striving for it, I think, is a good.
But your packaging, speaking of your packaging and everything, it brings about some sort of nostalgia, handmade energy, which is why I believe people are attracted to it. I don't know what your guys. I mean,
it reminds me of like my lunchbox that I would take to school.
Yeah.
Like the paper bag. I mean, I had the pink lunchbox, but I preferred the paper bag. I love the paper bag. It's like traditional.
I know
That's exactly what I was after.
I like the
That's
paper
what you were
bag.
after?
That was the point of somebody had that at the farmers markets or where you're at, you have something that has that feeling because we started off with the butcher paper. But then it was like it would seep through because it wasn't designed for that. But I was hand wrapping these stupid things and like taking a pizza cutter and cutting them and making them originally when I brought them into Whole Foods. They let me bring it in. We used a sticker to seal the back of it. These weren't like hermetically sealed.
Wow.
This was like hand sealed.
So like
These
when
hands.
did
These hands.
when did Papa Steve's really take off? Like in terms of sales and production and everything. So this was 13 years ago you started selling them. When was it, like
the inflection point was like where you guys are in this 4-year marker. I was what do they call it now? when you're self-funded. I forgot the term.
Bootstrapping?
Bootstrapped. Yeah, bootstrap this thing with actual boots.
Us too.
Yeah. I wasn't making. It was always paying for itself, but it didn't start making money until the 4th year.
Sure.
And it wasn't until I put it on Amazon.
Oh.
Okay. See, this is what everybody wants to hear
Amazon
on this podcast.
That changed the inflection point, because then the ACOS, average, cost of sales, that percentage, like that's your like marker on Amazon of what you're paying for the ad versus how much the sales you get for it. So that's your goal on Amazon, is to keep that ACOS. It's ACOS. It's like a term they have on there. Like they give you a marker to measure it. Once that, then it just started to just moving like fast.
You mean you set the price to a...
I set my advertising cost.
Oh, advertising cost.
Yeah, that it's their term they use, and it's changed a lot. But once I put it up there, just putting it up there doesn't do anything. You got to get the people to know about it, because you won't get ranked until people start buying it. Yeah. Once you start buying it, you start moving up into the search engine.
How did you get people to start buying it?
Through the advertising part. That's the ACOS. So you got to keep that cost down, because a lot of people lose a lot of money because that percentage is high, and they're like their cost of acquisition. It's like your customer cost acquisition, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it's like, that's such a high number that you're not making any money off of those sales. You're getting customers.
Right.
But now you're paying all this money to get them, and you're like, okay, great. So you bought a box of bars from me, and I'm broke.
And it's
wonderful.
With refrigeration and, well, that's so funny. Sorry, I didn't mean to skip over that. That's really real.
It's so real.
It is real.
It's like you bought a box from me and I lost it all.
Like, that's awesome. I'm glad you ate it and you're happy, and I'm broke.
Yeah.
This wasn't a win-win deal.
So I've never ordered from you guys online. I've only bought it at the store, so I've never seen the packaging. So do you do like, it's refrigerated bars?
Yeah, they're refrigerated. So the only way we can make it is I got to make it weekly. So I only get 1 day a week to make it. And this whole idea of hand thing is no joke. Like, that's the thing, is the authenticity part, is everyone wants to start off like with everything like set up. And they start off with the distributor, and they start off with all these, and you're like, what are you doing? That's crazy. That's like, you don't know all the mechanics of the model of what's going to cost to deliver it and to make it and all the labor things. You're not going to be able to figure all that out if you are in this high scale mode. And that's where they make these mistakes, is they scale too quickly, or they scale like too fast up front. And they start getting warehouse space. No, do this in your house. Yeah. Do the cottage food business license for $50,000 in sales and figure that out. I didn't get that. That would have been great. But that's the thing that gets everyone into trouble, is that scaling part. What would you too quick?
What would you say to a business, though, a new business, who now a lot of grocery stores aren't allowing you to self-distribute? You have to go through a distributor to get into my store.
Yeah, that's the new angle. That's I didn't have that issue going in. They played that. They did push that back then too, though. So I did hear that quite a bit. The difference was I was able to get into Whole Foods because they had a local program. Oh. Yeah. And I went into the store. This is what was bizarre. This is why it's not repeatable advice. It's
it's also it was a while ago. No, I know.
It's like when you're back in the long old days when it was snowing, and I walked 5 miles in my shoe. Like, okay, Grandpa, thanks. It's not relevant today though. But back then, I actually walked in because of golds. I was selling a gold, so I figured, I found this guy. I go, how'd you get in here? Like, what? He was demoing, or he's like, oh, well, just do this. Get a postcard. He told me what to do. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, just get a postcard and put a picture of the thing and write this. I go, if I make it and I bring it to you and show it to you, whatever. He's like, yeah. I was like, all right. Remember, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing at this point with food. I just was like, okay, I met this guy. Make the postcard, come at Whole Foods. He's like, and then figure out who the people are in the store. And I was like, all right. So I got the postcard, I showed it to him. He's like, yeah, okay, do that. Now bring it in there and bring the demo and then go find the whatever. I had been working the store for a few weeks, standing in the aisles, like talking to people, asking whatever, getting to know them. So what do you do? What moves here? And they'll tell you, like, oh, that sells, that doesn't. And I was like, really? Why? They're like, oh, this, whatever, right? So I find the buyer guy. I go, who do I give this to? Her? I'll give it to here. Just give it to me. I'll take it to her. I was like, I brought him a sample. He takes it to. They called me the same day before I got home. They were calling me. I was like, this is a joke. Really? I just walked in here, and they said, yeah, you have a meeting with the buyer wants to meet with you this week. What? Yeah, we want to meet with you. Bring the product in.
Wow.
She gave me the whole roadmap, how to get through all of the nonsense. But they only gave me one store. It took 6 months. In 6 months, I was in the Venice store. That was my first store. But she helped me all of the way. She was like my little mentor. I was like, how do I get past these politics? Like, this stuff you're talking about.
Yeah.
They tell me this nonsense. She goes, don't listen to them. She goes, go around him. Go and talk to so-and-so. I was like, really? She goes, yeah, go and do some demos and do this. I would just listen to everything she told me. I was like a sponge. I had no ego. I was like, I'm an idiot. Just tell me what to do. I'll do it. I could care less. And she's like, yeah, do this and whatever. And I'd knock on doors and they'd say, yeah, you gotta that thing. You gotta be direct. And the Bristol, all that. They would tell you this stuff. I don't know, we only use direct distribution. I was like, okay. Then how do these other people get in here? Because I know they're not those aren't distributors. Then whatever, right?
I think it just depends on how you want to move forward.
It's like, how it
there's
makes
always
a big difference.
there always is a loophole.
Yeah.
But it just depends how badly do you want to get into the store and how quickly.
And they'll use that against you.
Yeah.
That's the part that I would say you always got to be careful of is don't walk in there thinking that you have nothing to offer. Because when you do that, you give away everything. You start saying, I do guaranteed sales. You're like, no.
Yeah.
Do you know what that means?
Yeah.
It means if it doesn't sell, you're taking it back.
Yeah. And most brands don't know that.
And they don't, and you shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
But the distribution part, yes. Now for self-distributing, most of them don't want to allow you in there. So it becomes more challenging. Mm-hmm. But a lot of these places have these little programs that might allow you. Because remember, these places are just real estate.
Yeah.
They're just shelves.
Right.
They act like they own everything and they run it. They're like, hello, remember those shelves? Yeah, those are products on the shelves. Without the sales from those things, your shelves are just shelves. Right. Remember that? Yeah, the customers aren't coming there for your store. They're coming for what's on the shelves in the store.
Yeah, and it's refreshing, and I think it's a balance too. It's like
it's a balance.
It's a balance, like letting them know that we're grateful for being in contact so that we can be on your shelves.
That's
right. Then also we have something to offer too.
It's a mutual thing.
It's a mutual thing. Yeah. It's a balance. But I hear you. The stores can be intimidating when you're a small brand. You really want to get into Whole Foods, and you're like, I'll do anything.
Exactly.
But then
I'll sell my soul.
I'll sell my soul. I swear.
That's the only shirt I have left.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, I'll take it.
But anyway.
So you're still hand making all of the bars?
No.
But not you.
Mostly,
but
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think for the past 11 years, no joke, these were literally one bar at a time by hand, weighed and picked off every little extra almond or piece, and then put in the package by hand, and then sealed by hand, and then packed by hand.
Oh my gosh.
So everything that's the authentic part of it, is I couldn't lie about that, because I'm like, there's no way to make it because there's no machines.
Right.
There's nothing that it can go through. I tried every machine out there. There is nothing. So it's like...
And that's an exhausting experience.
Oh my God.
Figure out how someone else can make the product or how it can be made by machine.
Yeah.
How many bars are you making per week?
It changes. I mean, it could be, I'd say upwards of 20,000 maybe.
Wow.
It depends. Sometimes it could be 30.
Yeah.
Sometimes it could be 15. it just depends what the demand is.
And are you nationwide, or is it just nationwide on Amazon?
No, we're in different parts of the
Okay.
U.S.
Okay.
Yeah, we're on the East Coast in Moms, and different like markets out there. There's people that are selling this. I have no idea how they're even getting it. The customer's like, I found this at a gift shop in San Diego. How?
Resellers.
Where?
And so you're directly shipping
Yes.
to moms.
Yeah, we self-distribute to everybody. I don't have any distributors.
Wow.
Because I just say, hey, you want to do that, then don't sell it. I got plenty of people that want to buy it. I'm not going to be bullied around because I see how they act.
Right.
They talk to you like you're garbage. Like, oh, well, you have to go. And I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm not greedy. If I have to serve a small number of people, I'm happy. I'm like, if it's a small customer group that's happy with the product and I make them happy and I'm making a living at it, I'm good. I don't need to be the giant whatever.
You don't really do very much marketing.
I haven't. That's the
Okay.
bizarre part is before we were pounded like Instagram. I did the Instagram ads. I did the influencer
Yeah.
thing where I had paid the people to take the picture of with it and their dog, their bathroom mirror, or whatever they did. I tried all those different things. We did ads for a while, and we did the Amazon was most of it. Those Amazon ads. I don't do any Amazon ads anymore. I actually had to take it off of Amazon because we can't fill it. I can't fill the orders.
Can't keep up with the demand.
No, it got so bad because Martha Stewart did some post. See, they do it for me. Like Kristen, somebody from the TV show Laguna. It'll come to me probably when I'm driving.
Yeah.
Like, but she did it, and we were like out of nowhere. We had like orders all just piling up,
Oh my God.
but no one told us.
Right.
So every time like a golfer did it, this guy in the last PGA golf tour that was here, he was eating it. And then somebody talked about it on the radio. And then the next thing you know, we're getting calls like blowing our phone up. What's this? What? Hey, I want to buy that.
We want these.
We want this. I'm like, well, who's this? And they're like, what? A golfer was eating it on TV.
Right.
He's like eating it. Like, and the radio announcers are talking about it. So it's like, okay, blow up, like just take off. Then Martha Stewart did it, and it just went off the charts.
So you have so much organic virality, which is
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, it's like most businesses' dream.
Yeah,
You know, to
yeah.
get this organic virality and just get people posting the product because it's an actually good product.
Because
Like,
we focus on all of the effort goes into like I suffer, and my assistant who helps me run this stuff, we literally suffer to make it because the level of what my expectations are of it is so high that I just put all my effort into making a good product and to make sure I give somebody what they're paying for.
Absolutely.
No one's doing that really because they're so focused on giraffes and animal
Well, I think it's so refreshing. It's like, I know you say the word bizarre about not marketing. I don't think it's bizarre. It's refreshing.
Yeah.
It's just so cool because in this day and age, we're always focused on how to get more people to view the product. But the proof is in the pudding. We go to Erewhon all the time.
Yeah.
People are picking it up and not what I notice about your bars, which is different than any other bars. I don't know if you know this. Probably you do because you see the sales data. Everybody else is picking up one bar of other things, other brands. People are picking up multiple of one flavor or different flavors of your bars, and they go, because I look at the carts and I see, and they have multiple of yours, which is crazy.
It's crazy because I think they can figure out that I'm not lying. Mm-hmm. Because I literally suffer weekly to make it. I mean, to do it, it's extremely difficult, labor intensive. Yeah. And it takes a lot of like effort to like, I'm literally watching every single person so that they don't make any errors, like put something where it doesn't go, this doesn't go there, it's all of that. I actually mixed the stuff for a long time. I was actually the one actually doing it. So it's like I'm watching every step of the whole thing. But I think it's because they can detect that this stuff is actually made. Like they know I'm not lying.
Yeah, no, you can
they
taste
eat
the
it.
quality.
Yeah, because it's just made last week. Because I can't make that many. I can't store it in a warehouse. We don't have any place to store it. We have to get rid of it every week. So I think they just can tell the difference because all the other stuff, they make it in mass machines and mass product. The ingredients that you have to use to get it in those machines is different because it won't go through them. And then you got to store it. And then put it in the Amazon warehouse. You're getting your bars from the Amazon warehouse. It's been in there for a year. Or the products that, in order to do a run that's big for these co-packers, you got to make a lot. Well, for you to make a lot, you got to store it. So now we're making iPads, not food. You see the system? That's the food system. To make it scalable, all your food has to be made like an iPad.
That was
Do you want to eat iPads?
That was a mic drop.
Huh?
That was a mic
That was a
drop
mic
moment.
Yeah, that's the food industry, though.
And
That's how it works. No one knows this, but the reason why your food tastes so dry or stale or weird or it tastes good or there's something, whatever, it's kind of dry or whatever, because it's been in a warehouse for probably 4 months before you get it. It's traveled in hot trucks across the United States to all these different distribution locations because the only way they can get it to you is it's got to move through the whole network, and then it's going to be in all these different tossed around, beat up.
Yeah.
To get it to you, it's got to go through it. Well, you get it from me, it's coming right from me. We're literally taking it and putting it in the box.
Right.
And it's going right to you because it was just made. So there's no one else other than USPS or UPS that's touching it.
Right.
Right. That's so inspiring.
There is no warehouse to
Like
send
the
it to.
least amount of touch points.
Yeah, I have no touch
Yes.
point.
And that's why like the produce tastes different at the grocery store than the farmer's market.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a significant difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes a huge difference. All this time it sits in these,
Yes.
plus it's like sitting around. And here's the other game that people don't really know. To get the sales to justify these big machines or whatever, the problem they're doing is they're selling maybe a couple units. I didn't know this till recently. Like, really? The reason why they have 15, 20,000, they call them doors. Like you get in these doors. That's like a term of like,
Oh, yeah, of course.
oh,
How
doors.
many doors are you in?
Okay, doors. Now we're talking doors. I'm like, all right.
Okay.
Right, to be in that, they're only selling a few at each store because they're so spread out all over the country. And the one lady at Whole Foods, they do these little workshops for the entrepreneur. I just went to all of them because it's free. So I would drive wherever they were doing them, and I was like, just listening
They're
all
not
the time.
still doing those.
No, this was
Wow.
a long time ago.
So then, like, I totally hear you, and this makes me want to buy your product 10 times more because we've been completely disconnected from our food system, which is why it's always back to eating real food and, not processed food as much as possible.
Yeah,
You're
right.
obviously doing the least processing possible.
Yeah.
But then what would you say to someone who, like, I totally respect what you're doing, right? But what if someone doesn't want to be the manufacturer of their food business? Like they have this idea, they want to go to a co-packer, they want to be, do you know what I mean? Just playing devil's advocate, right?
Yeah.
Like what would you say
Yeah.
to someone who doesn't want to be making the product?
Don't do the food business. You shouldn't be in it. Really, you shouldn't. If you're not willing to go make it, you shouldn't be doing it.
Okay.
Like I made this stuff. Like if you want to manufacture food like an iPad, you can do that. If you want to build this stuff, but I mean, really, you can't make it. This is why anybody who comes and works in the places I'm at, I have zero sympathy for the tired, hard work. I'm like, I have scraped gum off the floor. I have washed every dish. I have done every job I have asked someone else to do. No job has been beneath me. I've slept 2,400 pounds of protein up to a loft, box at a time, on a rickety ladder, because I had to make sure they were doing their work so that I could keep going, because there's no one else to do it. I had to do it. So if I got to do it, I got to be able, for me to ask you to do it, I got to do it first, because then I've earned your respect when I expect you to do it the way I did it. And if you say you can't do it, then I'm like, well, then go somewhere else, because I did that job. I swept the floors. I've mixed the food. I've packaged them. I've run them through the sealer. And I'll jump into any job that anyone that I have doing for me if I have to. But if you want to go to the co-packer, that model is going to destroy you, because it's a conflict of interest to start off that way.
No, yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a correction.
Yeah.
I don't mean starting off
I mean,
that
eventually
way.
going
because
there.
we both talk about how you have to know how to do it on your own first.
Yeah.
So that you know what it's like to be in the employee's position, so that you can pick it up and you know how it is.
Right.
And if someone complains, well, I did it.
Yeah,
so
right.
I know how to do it.
Yeah.
We're talking about moving the needle eventually.
Later.
If you say later, like once I know how to do it, I want to scale this,
Yeah.
and I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. Okay. So later, the scaling to the co-packer. I would say moving to that model, you're losing a significant amount of profit, but to do it, if you have the model to support it, like the scale, and you can afford, their 50% markup, because it's a conflict of interest, right? Their model against your model. You're fighting one another because they're in it to make money. And their margins are even thinner than yours, right?
Correct.
And they're the ones responsible for all the equipment. And they don't like you already. It's like, you're a pain in my butt to deal with, because I've already lost all that. They all have these bad burn stories or whatever that they'll tell you. Like, I had all these horrible... They're living in misery, most of these people that are running these places, because they've been burned so many times. And they have all these assets under management that they got to control. That's expensive. So to do scale, to run the machine, they're only willing to do a certain amount. I would say you better get a good attorney.
Got that covered.
Sorry, no, I'm just, this is
Yeah.
so.
You better have a
I'm
good
only
attorney to write
laughing
those
because
contracts and look at it, because
Contracts.
you write contracts.
Contracts are everything.
You better have a contract. And
I'm only
and this-
laughing because I didn't expect you to say that.
Oh, no.
I
you
just
better
thought
have
you were
a
going to say something about negotiating minimums, and you got to have a good attorney.
No, because the problem is they don't want you unless you're a Hershey, right? Because they want the million. I'm making them. They want you when you've been in business for 10, 15 years and you're like blowing through the roof. And they're like,
Very difficult.
then you have the negotiating power to say, okay, here's how it's going to go. See,
Right.
I have a million things that I make daily. I want to interview you as my co-packer.
Right. But which goes back to the whole thing of then it's sales. Then it goes back to sales. You need the sales, and it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's like the co-packer, the sales and the minimums, and which one is first. But at the end of the day, it's sales, because then you have the negotiating power to say, I can make X, Y, Z minimums.
You should be busting at the seams, not able to fill your product before you go talk to a co-packer. You have no business talking to a co-packer if you're like not
another
stressed
mic
out,
drop.
blowing
And we
out.
were both like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I can't keep my full-time job if I'm doing this. Like the most tired I've ever been.
Yeah.
And I think that's the breaking point, is that, okay, I got to find
You should be in
somebody.
therapy before you get a co-packer.
It was like,
Yeah.
it was
Oh my hand! What do I do? I can't manage. That's the level of like
Yes.
the seams
Absolutely.
are busting, and it's like you have so much demand,
Cool.
but the demand is predictable, and it looks like it's consistent, and it's proved itself over a number of cycles. It's not a blip on the radar type of demand. And then you can walk in and say, hey, so I'm going to start interviewing. I'm dating a co-packer, because you are dating them, by the way. And this is your most important business partner. So you're going to marry this person. You better take them on a lot of dates and figure out what's going on. Where are you from? What's your family like? Where are you? I mean, not that kind of thing, but where people are like, what is this?
No, you're absolutely
But that's how you need to
correct.
know them, because they're going to control your business. Because if they say, oh, well, we had this other thing come in this week, we can't get you on that. What are you talking about? I have orders to fill. You'll put me under like this. If you don't have the contract so like locked up where they're going to be penalized for doing this, first off, if you could get them to go for that, which you have to.
Sometimes they won't do
And they won't, most of them won't do it, because you're like, well, they're just looking at you like, well, I don't know if I should even give you some of my breathing space. That's how they treat you.
Yeah.
Well, that's how they're going to treat you. So you should just go back to your busting at the seams until you have enough where you can come in and say, all right, because they start talking to you like this. How many pounds do you have? This one guy just talked to me like that. Says he didn't care about anything else. Says, how many pounds do you have? I'm like, pounds? I mean, how much pounds do I weigh? What do you mean, pounds? Like, how many how would I know how many pounds I have? I don't weigh this stuff on a scale. I just make it. So I just make up numbers. And he was just like,
Yeah.
that was, you get just the breathing of the,
And,
I was done. It was
no, totally.
over.
They do. And it's like a numbers game, 100%. And they don't care. And it's about production quantities. And
Yeah.
I transparently, even a couple months ago, got some quote from someone. And the number was just outrageous.
Yeah.
And it's because it also activates a part of my brain that goes back to what you said about having this product sit. I don't want product that's so old that I could technically sell it, but I want fresher product.
Yeah, right.
We talk about that, making it more small batch. We got quoted at, it was 60,000 pieces. And I was like,
that's about right.
What are you talking
Per
about?
SKU.
Per SKU.
Per SKU.
And I go, how
Let's get
am I
that one
supposed
straight.
to
Per SKU.
per SKU? Because you can't mix allergens. It's one line, and then we have to wash. And I'm like,
the tolling cost.
tolling. So tolling for
That
everyone
was a
listening.
new term I learned. I was like, am I in New York? What do you mean a tolling cost?
Tolling is labor. So for everyone listening,
Tolling is to clean the stuff. Because it takes a toll on them, apparently.
So that's what
clean
for people listening. That's like what a minimum would look like. Is like a 60,000 minimum.
Trolling cost.
And trolling cost.
Yeah,
And
that's what it is.
so anyway, I agree with your statement about that.
That's on a per SKU. So now imagine if I had 15 SKUs and you want 60. This stuff, you're going to be getting this stuff like 8 months old,
Right.
And now that's if I have a shelf life that lasts that long. Mine doesn't.
What's your shelf
My
life?
shelf life is like 45, 60 days in the fridge, 90 in the freezer kind of thing. Mine expired. So that's great. I got you to make it, and I got to sit back, and you made 50,000 of these things and whatever. Hopefully they're correct, right? Hopefully they didn't make any errors in them, because I won't get to know until 8 months later when the customer's like, this tastes like hockey puck. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Now I go back to the co-pack. I have a crappy contract because it just took whatever. And they're like, I don't know what to tell you. Mm-hmm. You're like, but I'm out $80,000, whatever it is, right? And they're like, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Well, I think it is so cool how you've built a business with like very little marketing, just focusing on the quality of the product. And you just prove to show that it just is the quality of the product, and customers will come.
I think if you just make something good, because most everybody in this age, they don't want to work.
Right.
So that's showing up in probably the product quality half the time, is they're just throwing it in there and shoving it. I had a guy printing up my film. This is how crazy it is. I sent a truck from Mothership to go pick up my film, right? This is like $8,000. Not a lot of film, but it's $8,000, a small thing, because I'm testing them out, right? This guy just gave it to another driver, and my shipment was in San Bernardino, and I'm like, hey, my driver's there to pick up the film. They're like, oh yeah, it already came. I'm like, pretty sure it didn't, because I just sent the truck. It just got there. They just don't care. So they had just literally signed. All the guy said was he was picking up a shipment across the street. It was from the same company. All he had to do was show up and say, I'm from Mothership. And they just rolled off $8,000 with the film.
That's insane.
And he took it. Thank God they tracked it down and they were able to get it back. Wow. Because I'm like, well, but you think of it, that small thing, because people don't care anymore.
Right. They don't.
So I was going to say the two things when it comes to marketing, this is what I've learned recently of all that, because you said your week was crazy. And I'm like, oh, you haven't heard anything.
Oh, okay. Please.
So
share.
when you go, the thing that I learned this week most, that I was like, if I could use one word that encapsulated the one thing that people can't stand these days as customers, being ignored. That is the number one thing to keep your customers, is ignoring. We do our best to not ignore people because we get so busy, and I don't have the resources to get back to everybody, but I know how it feels. So we're doing our best.
You said the
to get back
key
to
to keep your customers is
don't ignore them.
Don't ignore them.
Yeah, watch the ignoring part. In business, period.
I mean, everyone wants to be acknowledged.
Yes.
Right. Seen,
Look,
heard.
if you just sent me,
yeah.
if you just sent, hey, I'm working on this.
Yeah.
It's good enough. Like, it takes you 2 seconds. But the cost for the ignoring part is so expensive.
Right.
They get insulted. They feel disrespected. They think you don't care. They think you're just off. And I'm like, look, we try to explain to them, hey, look, we're going to be transparent with you. We're just sitting here banging this out, and I don't have the people to manage to get back to you in time, but we're doing our best because we had after that Martha Stewart, we could not keep up. They were mad because they thought we were being ignored. Right. Well, we're not ignoring you. We're just working on trying to fill it.
And you don't have hundreds of people.
And I don't have hundreds of robots because I'm in California and no one wants to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not that I don't have it's that the people don't want to come and work. And I literally was like, tell the customers that and see what they say. Tell them that. And they're like, we were surprised. They're like, oh man, I didn't know that. I'm like, yeah, I want to fill your order, but the people don't want to work anymore. So how do I do it? And they're like, oh, I understand. Like, I didn't know that was going on. I'm like, but I was so transparent. That's a risk to tell you, hey, I'm small.
Yeah, right.
I'm not a big giant company.
Everyone thinks we're massive companies.
I know.
I'm like, nope,
it's so
I'm doing
funny.
this, and this.
I'm like, you see me at Whole Foods stuffing the shelf in. Yeah. That's because I don't trust anybody to come and do it.
Right.
Not because I can't hire somebody. I don't trust anybody to do it because they don't want to. They don't care.
Especially when you focus on making the product so good. You don't want to just like all of a sudden, it's like when it gets to the shelf,
a mess.
Make it a mess.
Or they just don't even put it there, or they put it somewhere else, or they don't bother to follow it all the way through, and that's the issue. Is
and again balance for sure, and not everyone. Your perspective is huge and refreshing.
Yeah,
can everyone be able to go in the store? No, and sometimes the store doesn't like when you do that. No. So, but you're Papa Steve's.
And
you've been in the business for 13.
They leave me alone. Yeah, it's different.
And they do.
I'm not even supposed to be in the store.
No, right.
Like Amazon doesn't even let people do that. Just want to
recognize that it's like not something that everybody can do.
No.
Yeah. But for you, I mean, you've been in the business 13 years. You have the experience and the connections and the history of being able to be like, I come into the store. Like, you have the authority to do that. From
it's not something I would recommend to everybody. I'm just saying because of the situation of there's people always offering, I'll merchandise that for him. Like, oh no, it's okay.
Wow. And that's your work ethic, and that can't be taught.
Yeah, it's just something that people. I wouldn't say that's a great. Recommend people going into the stock your own stuff or whatever. Right. I just have to do it because I don't mind it, because I use it for analyzing the movement, and it keeps me connected with the people in the stores. And I only do it for a few of the stores that are the ones that I want to pay attention to.
Yes.
And so that I can understand what's going on.
Yes.
Absolutely. So before we started recording the podcast, we were talking about how this business really is like whack-a-mole. And then we started talking about God and faith and stuff. So I just want to hear a little bit about that to just sum up the podcast and what advice you have for people that are getting on this journey.
I would say I would not be this far if I did not have God in my life. This is the only reason why I've gotten so far, because every week I was ready to give up. Literally. I'd go, they're not going to order. Oh, that's it. Okay, Lord, you want me out? That's it. That's how crazy it was. Like every single week because you're panicked. And you're just, but without my mom constantly pushing me, because I got to that 4-year mark. And I was like, but come on, can I at least make $50,000 at least, like the cookie guy? Because there was a cookie guy in there. He's making 50. Why can't I? And she's like, just keep going. Just keep at it. And I was like, because I would have given up like 50,000 times, like every week. But I just kept getting affirmations of just keep going. Like I'd pray and say, no, keep going. I'm like, okay, but I'm just making this clear. I'm going to put this down at any time you want me to, because you're first. I will put it down. I will close it down. If this is not something I'm supposed to be doing, I will put it away. That's not easy. That is not easy, because I literally was willing to do that. But just constantly, I'd keep getting pulled forward and pulled forward and pulled forward and pulled forward and pulled forward. But yeah, without my faith in that, I couldn't get through this. I couldn't get through a day or a week. I wouldn't sleep. There's no way. I would say that's probably the biggest piece, is having that peace. Is that's where I get my peace from. This is cool. I am very blessed and happy that this has gone well, and this is great, but I'm not greedy, and I'm doing this because I feel like there's a purpose for it, and this is what he wants me doing right now. And I don't need to have the giant whatever, all of the giant company or whatever. I've had investors come. I've had all kinds of people, hey, let's get this, rack it up. And I'm like, let me make something clear to you. You have a certain level of headaches. So for every extra amount of money you want to make, you will get more headaches. You have to decide how much is enough and how much headaches you're willing to put up with. That's where I put that whole God perspective in, is you say, keep him first all the time, and this is my second thing. And then I'm good. Yeah. But the minute every time I put this gets out of whack and I start stressing out and panicking, like this is my only thing, it doesn't go well. I'm a mess. It's why I have to keep coming back, getting centered back up every week and go, okay, why am I doing this? And this is just the thing that I'm doing, and I'm sharing with people and whatever, and it's second. Not easy. Right. Because you got to pay bills. Yeah. Right? And you're like, I need to eat, Lord.
Right. Like we all started this from a passion for healthy living and like creating products that actually improve people's lives. And that's why it's like I didn't even think about the profit at the beginning. And until a year later, I'm like, oh my God, it matters that we're profitable,
Until you were like, I needed to pay my rent. I'd like to get out of this place.
Right, exactly. But I came back to my faith this year, actually in December, after having like a full-on breakdown and feeling extremely hopeless. And then I realized, I was like, wait, I completely like got disconnected from my faith for about 4 years. So
it's the whack-a-mole thing that you come back to, is every week it's something, and you're just like, what is it going to be this? Can I have a peaceful day?
Right.
Like a day where things go? Like, can it just go?
It's looking for those signs to keep going, as you just said. So
the signs to keep going are that is the hardest thing for the entrepreneur, is the signs of like, what are the signs to keep going? I think it's different for everybody. I don't think there's any things you could put in a list and say, here's the signs. Yeah. Because your relationship with God is unique to you, yours as well, mine as well. Our experience is not going to be the same, and the signs aren't going to be the same. And then you have people in your life that are also those signs. Absolutely. That are constantly like telling you, I don't know about that, man. I don't know if I would keep pushing in that direction. That might not be the best. So that's where that wisdom comes from too, is those people around you, is he's using those people to talk to you. Because, you want to give up sometimes. You get hit.
Absolutely.
Whack-a-mole.
So you have to keep going.
Yeah, this is part of, look, the grit, go read the book Grit. If you're going to tell anybody to read a book, you want to be an entrepreneur, that book Grit, that's it. You want to be an entrepreneur, read that book. Because you need
grit.
Grit. If that is the Angela Duckworth, I think, that is one of the best books that described what I've been through and why I keep going, is you take that grit test. Because if you're not willing, if you don't have the grit in you, you will not get through all these difficult whack-a-mole weeks. Because the one thing that makes the entrepreneur is your resilience level. You have to be smart. You have to be smart at it. Do it. You can't be dumb and keep falling down. You just keep falling down. But I would say resilience of, if you can keep getting up after getting knocked down, you'll stick it out long enough. And you know what? If it's not this product, it doesn't matter. You'll find another one.
Yeah. I went to this event and they were talking about this study, and between the top 5 tennis players in the world and, the top 25 and the difference between them. And then everything was pretty much the same, like what they eat, how they train, everything.
Yeah, right.
Except for they saw how they responded when they lost points.
Yeah.
And the people in the top 5, they would immediately move on. Whereas the other people, they would like swear, they would still stay in the past point while they were in the next point. So they couldn't get over it. They couldn't get over the loss. Whereas the other people just moved on.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Well, I feel like we could have 2 episodes from no, I'm serious. We could talk forever.
Yeah.
But we've been keep going. I feel like we should have 2 episodes, honestly, for this, and we'd love to even have you back another time because I really feel like you are a knowledge bomb and you have so much to drop, especially being in the business for so many years. So and honestly, and from both aspects, from the business aspects, and then also more of the entrepreneurial, spiritual aspects. So I think both. But where can listeners find you if they want to connect with you?
I would say papasteves.com is the best place because we had to pull it off of Amazon for now, so they can't get it there.
Okay.
But Erewhon's, Whole Foods, Mom's,
Beautiful.
Lassen's. Yeah.
Beautiful.
amazing.
Thank you so much,
Yeah,
Steve.
thank you guys.
Thank you.